Agricultural work is a broad term for a variety of labor that we rely on for our food. It involves cultivating the land, growing and harvesting crops, and working with livestock. Agricultural work is mostly done on a farm, but can also be performed in a nursery or involve the handling, packing, and processing of agricultural products. The agriculture industry is present in communities across the United States, both rural and urban. According to the USDA Economic Research Service, these are the 10 states responsible for the majority of U.S. agriculture production. What share of production is your state responsible for? There are 2.6 million farm workers in the United States. That mostly includes undocumented immigrants, temporary guest workers, U.S. citizens, and lawful permanent residents. Immigrant workers comprise approximately 73% of the agriculture workforce. That's almost 2 million people. USDA data show that 50% of farm workers are undocumented, a major risk for exploitation. Farm workers and advocates, however, estimate that number to be closer to 75%. Many of these workers and their families have lived in the United States for a long time. In general, the majority of undocumented immigrants have lived in the U.S. for more than 10 years. Of workers included in the dataset, 69% are from Mexico, 24% are U.S. born, 5% are from Central America, and 2% are from South America, the Caribbean, Asia, the Pacific Islands, and other parts of the world. Women are an increasing share of farm workers, climbing from 21% to 26% in 6 years. The agricultural workforce is also getting older. With fewer young immigrants entering this employment sector, the average age of foreign-born farm workers rose from 28 to 33 years old between 2013 and 2018. Labor trafficking is a human rights issue, but it's also an economic issue. The food and agriculture industry is worth over $1 trillion. Yet 30% of farm workers are living in poverty, with a median income of less than $18,000 a year. This type of work is physically demanding, requires great skill, demands long hours in all types of weather, and can be extremely dangerous. Many workers are subjected to substandard living conditions, wage theft, gender discrimination, and physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. Many workers are separated from their families for long stretches of time and do not have good access to medical care for work-related injuries. As essential as these jobs are, it's no wonder they're hard to fill. By choosing to offer such poor wages and conditions, agriculture attracts people without better options. That's intentional. Foreign workers are much less likely to report abuses and violations. And without their labor, food prices would go up as U.S. farms drastically reduce their production of vegetables, fruit, and meat. A variety of push and pull factors influence migration to the U.S. Economic instability, political unrest, violence, natural disaster, population growth, and scarce employment opportunities, or even the prospect of a higher wage, are a few of the things that push workers to seek safety and opportunity in the United States. Meanwhile, U.S. demand for foreign labor pulls immigrants in. Farmers and major corporations rely heavily on what are too often unscrupulous farm labor contractors to recruit workers. It's important to mention as well that agricultural workers can be intergenerational, with children and teenagers joining their parents in the workforce to help provide for the family. We know that for an experience to meet the federal definition of labor trafficking, a person must experience force, fraud, and/or coercion. In an agricultural setting, like many others, this can look like a false promise. For example, a $20 hourly wage and 4-bedroom house to share with 3 other workers, withholding a passport or other identifying documents, restricting a person's ability to move freely within or outside of the work site. Although less common, confinement or physical restraint can occur. Threats of violence or deportation against the worker, the worker's family, or other workers, physical violence, including sexual assault, debt peonage, or compelling a worker to pay off a legitimate or illegitimate debt with his labor, being assigned to work other than what was agreed upon, and limiting a worker's ability to manage her own money or communicate freely. Many factors can increase a person's vulnerability to labor trafficking. As in other industries, a worker's legal status, English proficiency, education level, and economic situation can be contributing factors to abuse and exploitation. In the agriculture industry, add to that a worker's reliance on the employer for shelter, food, interpretation, and transportation. The isolation of many agriculture jobs is also a major factor. Victims are geographically cut off from individuals and communities that may otherwise provide support. Even H-2A workers, whose whereabouts and contract details are known, are not protected. The agriculture industry is also excluded from major U.S. labor statutes that protect workers in other industries, like collective bargaining, unemployment benefits, overtime, and child labor. And lastly, we can't forget the U.S. versus Kosminski case that paved the way for the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. Traffickers took advantage of 2 U.S. citizens with mental health disorders, compelling them through psychological coercion to work on a farm in Michigan for 10 years. You've taken an important step by learning about the experience of agricultural workers in the United States. Remember that when workers know their rights and are empowered with the ability to organize, they are in the strongest possible position to protect themselves against abuse and advocate for humane wages and working conditions.